Portland, Oregon recently ranked 80th out of 80 major U.S. metro markets in investability, according to a poll of institutional investors. I'm going to tell you why this ranking isn't going to get any better if Senate Bill 722 passes.
Welcome to the Saucetown Investor Podcast.
Welcome back to the Saucetown Investor. I am Matt Cox, and we are here to talk about, if you've been following along in the news these past 2 weeks, Senate Bill 722 is in the news. It has not been passed yet, but it is a bill proposed by Portland City Councilor Angelita Murillo. And basically what it would do is it would ban the use of AI software by landlords to set rents using what's called algorithmic pricing. Okay. So on the surface, this maybe seems to be well intentioned, right? We want to make sure the big bad landlord isn't victimizing the tenant with this big bad new technology called AI and using algorithmic pricing. What I'm going to tell you, this Angelita, all due respect, if you want to come on the podcast, we'll talk about it. This is stupid, and I'm going to tell you why. Sorry for cursing. I don't curse much on the podcast. But she goes on to say, with zero facts or evidence to back this, that the ordinance could help bring the price of rent down in Portland, and that she felt a stronger responsibility as one of two renters on the 12-member city council to, quote, represent renters and their needs. Guys, when people talk like that, that's just classic identity politics. I am renter, hear me roar bullshit that's been going on in Oregon for way too long, but Portland in particular. Like, what the fact that she's a renter and there's only two renters on the council, that has no bearing on anything, guys. I mean, this isn't new in politics. Politics is a carousel of people who oftentimes are not subject matter experts that get put in a position to have a lot of power over said subject matter. And, this is kind of it's again, nothing new. It's a populist appeal. There's a lot of renters out there, and a lot of renters think that landlords are billionaires and have all this money, and then there's this, you throw in the other buzzword, which is AI, that, hey, the big bad landlord, they're using this new scary technology to screw you over. What else is new? The landlords are doing it again. Guys, that is not what's going on here. And I don't know if Angelita means well or if she just doesn't get how basic economics works, but this is freaking absurd. She goes on, she has a quote, AI software is being used to remove competitive pricing from the market and allows landlords to manipulate rent prices unfairly. Again, there's no data to support that. What I can tell you guys, I don't really have a horse in the race here. I'm a landlord. I own 35 units. But I don't use algorithmic pricing. Typically, I'll tell you the exact way that I set prices for my rentals. In fact, I'm doing it. I'll give you an example right now. Okay. So I have a single family home in Salem that is becoming available here in about a month. I have a renter who has lived there for, I think, 3 years. Awesome renter. And they are buying a house. So they're moving out. They're not going to be renters anymore. So here's what I do. I say, okay, great, guys. And what I do is I go on typically Zillow and I run a search for what similar rentals are renting for in the area. Okay, so this is a 3-bedroom, 1.5-bath house in Southeast Salem. So I narrow my search down. I try to get a similar square footage. I look at what stuff is going for there, and I set a rent price. Okay, that's it. There's no big bad AI here. I just set the price, and here's what happened, okay? This is how it plays out. This is how market rents work, okay? There's this idea that landlords can just charge whatever we want, okay? If that was the case, most humans are greedy, very greedy. I would charge $5,000 for this house if I could just set whatever price I wanted. But guess what happens? Okay. I initially set the price at $2,300. The first week, we didn't get many bites on it. Okay. That's the market telling me that my house is priced too high. So what do when the market tells me my house is priced too high? I lower the freaking price. I don't use AI. It doesn't, there's no smoke and mirrors going on here. That's how markets work. It's supply and demand dynamics. So, and then here's what happened. I lowered it to 2,200. We got a renter. We signed a lease. Everybody goes home happy. The algorithmic thing, guys, it's just a buzzword. I mean, so, and on the other side of that, most of your mom and pop landlords like me, I mean, I guess you could say I'm not mom and pop at 35 units, but I'm not a big institutional landlord. So most of us, that's how we set our rents. We just look at some comparables and we set the rent. But the big institutional landlords, they may need to use some pricing tools just because they're operating at such a scale that if you have thousands of units you're looking at, or excuse me, thousands of units that you own, you can't go and do a little analysis for every single unit. You need to be able to operate at scale. Breaking news, guys, this is how every freaking business on earth basically works. When you go and book an airline ticket with Delta or whoever you fly with, is the price the same every single day? No, of course it's not. They're using algorithmic pricing and data to set their prices. And you know what happens when they set their prices too high and no one books the ticket? The price comes down. You could say the same thing with any product or service. If a gym, I go to Crunch to work out here. If they're not getting any new members, they might lower the price to meet the market. This is so silly, guys. It's incredibly stupid that we're even talking about this. Every business uses data to set prices. And if the price is too high, they lower it. That's how you get customers. It's no different with rental properties. Okay. Hey guys, we're taking a quick break, but before we get back into it, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us to keep bringing you more valuable content. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, don't forget to leave a review. Please, it makes a huge difference. All right, let's get back to it. Now, this is all kind of, I can say it's all stupid, and maybe it's in your head, you think this is just kind of a petty back and forth battle of landlord versus tenant and kind of a power trip, but it's not. There are very, very real economic implications to this stuff. So, I mean, the first one I can tell you right off the bat, I live in New York, so I get to talk to a lot of people who haven't been to Oregon, but they just, they hear about Portland or they hear about Oregon on the news. Whether fair or not, Portland has a reputation as a terrible place to do business right now. And it has a reputation as a terrible place to be a landlord. And Oregon in general has that as well. Obviously, I don't think it's so bad that I wouldn't invest there because I invest in Oregon. But I'm not telling you my opinion. I'm telling you the national narrative. So that's anecdotally for me talking to people here in New York. But it's also, it's there in the data. I mean, you saw the poll where Oregon ranked 80th out of 80 metro markets as far as investability among institutional investors. Okay. That's bad. Plain and simple. We want Oregon to be a better place to do business. And so what happens when Portland has this terrible reputation? No money comes into the city, and you need, one of her Angelita's quotes was also about, oh, this won't hurt mom and pop. It'll only hurt the big institutional investors. I'm going to get into why that's actually not true. It will hurt the mom and pop, but let's just say for a second that she's completely right about that. Okay, let's just stipulate, okay, this only hurts institutional type money. That is really bad as well, okay? Who are the people? So Portland has a massive housing problem. The city's been underbuilt. There's not enough houses. There's not enough housing for everyone. There's a homeless problem. Rents are too high, etc. Who do you think solves that problem? It's not people like me. It's not mom and pop landlords, okay? It's big institutional money that comes in and builds big 100 unit, 200 unit type developments, okay? So this narrative that, oh, well, if it only hurts the institutional investors, then it's not bad. That's not true. Portland needs institutional investment. So she is shooting herself in the foot. And I hope this thing doesn't pass because she doesn't know what the hell she's talking about. And I hope that the other people on the council see that. But it's a complete detachment from basic economics. Okay. This narrative around Portland that it's a bad place to invest, that is putting a cap on housing supply because people, big institutional investors, don't want to go there. Now, the second part of this, her quote that this is only going to hurt institutional and won't hurt mom and pop, that's also not true. Okay, there's a part of this bill that basically allows for a tenant, any tenant that suspects that their landlord used, quote, algorithmic pricing against them. It allows them to file a personal lawsuit against them for $10,000. Okay, I experience this stuff. I'm in the trenches with it every day. This state of Oregon has created so many opportunities for frivolous, silly lawsuits that are completely based in zero fact, but they can absolutely crush your business. Okay, it's very easy to see a world in which a tenant or tenants who want to take advantage of a situation just file some BS, find some ambulance chaser attorney to claim that their landlord is using algorithmic pricing to rip them off. Okay, algorithmic pricing, like you can just file that. You don't have to provide any proof of it. But B, if I'm using Zillow, I'm aggregating data, I guess. Is that algorithmic pricing? Am I going to get sued by all of my tenants? This stuff, I see it every day. I just moved a tenant out who didn't pay rent for 3 months because they said there's a rat problem. Okay. I sent a professional rat company or a pest company there. There was no rat problem. When they moved out, these people literally set a completely intact rat in the middle of the floor upstairs. Rats don't die in the middle of floors. That's a whole nother conversation. But the point I'm making is there are so many little niches right now for tenants to just file frivolous BS against landlords. And this is just going to be a new one. If a tenant files something saying that a landlord is using algorithmic pricing against them, that's a very hard thing to disprove. And as we've seen time and time again, even if you are a landlord who's able to go to court and say, no, I'm not doing this, and, blah, 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 before you know it, it doesn't even matter if you win. Because while you're dealing with that, especially the city of Portland, where the courts are backed up, you might have lost 6 months of rent, and you probably had to pay the tenant cash for keys to get out of there. So the tenant might lose the lawsuit. They still win the war because they didn't pay rent for 6 months. So this is just another opportunity to do that. So in conclusion, guys, Portland needs institutional investment, and this is just another thing that's going to get in the way of that. And B, this will also screw over the little guy. This is a terrible, terrible bill. I don't think you've heard me get this fired up on one of my podcasts yet, but this is objectively stupid. And like I said, I don't really have a horse in the race here, at least right now, until I start getting, $10,000 lawsuits thrown at me for using quote unquote algorithmic pricing. But this is so stupid. Okay. So I hope some of our lawmakers listen to this, share it with them if you're listening. If you are part of this committee or you have access to Angelita Murillo, who's proposing this, share this as much as you can, because this is absolute stupidity and it is not good for renters because it's going to create less housing supply, and it's terrible for landlords too. Nobody wins here. That is a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Saucetown Investor. If you got value from this, drop us a comment and let us know your thoughts. Did you have a big takeaway? Is there a topic you want to see us cover next time? Is there a guest you want to see interviewed? DMs are open. business is at Saucetown Properties, and my personal, you can DM me personally, is at The Real Matt Cox 4. We'd also like to ask you kindly to please like and subscribe. You can also follow along with the Saucetown Investor blog. That's mattcox444.substack.com. Thanks again, guys, and until next time, keep investing and stay saucy, Saucetown.